Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the OC Varsity Gridiron Show, the final show of the 2022 high school football season. Because we have two teams in the state championship, Steve, and we've come a long way since those week zero games in mid-August. There's two teams left. Some pretty exciting action going down on Saturday in Northern California. How are you feeling about Laguna Hills and Northwood? The floor is theirs.
Yeah, oh my goodness. I like both of their chances. Coming out of the same league too. I mean, back in August when we were wearing shorts to cover games, we're probably if I'd said to you, who's going to be playing in the middle of December? Laguna Hills and Northwood. Those are the two county teams playing. What? What are you talking about? Yeah, that seemed like a long shot. Although Northwood had a lot of good players come back, Laguna Hills was an unknown to me, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, here they are and fantastic. And they seem like they're both hungry and digging it and ready to roll.
Yeah, both had to really dig deep and impress in those SoCal Bowls, which were not easy. Both teams went on the road,
Yes, sir.
including Northwood, all the way up to Delano and Central Valley. I made the trip a little bit north of Bakersfield to see those guys play, and I really wanted to see them play because I didn't see them play last year. So I was excited to see Northwood. I had to see Adam Harper with my own eyes.
He's something. Like I've told people, and I think I mentioned it to you last week on here, is that he's got this weird ability to skip his feet around when a guy's like going for an ankle tackle. He's not looking at the guy, but he knows it's coming, and he ballet dance is pretty darn good. Nutcracker, Swan Lake, that guy's
Yeah,
something.
I
The
like both of them.
Nureyev of high school football, the Mikhail Barishnikov of Orange County.
I like him. I like him more on the defensive side, probably projection.
Yeah,
He's a very sound and aggressive tackler, and of course, he uses that speed and footwork to get to where he needs to be. But he comes up and makes very sound and physical tackles, and so athletic. And him and Troy Lieber are from Laguna Hills, who we're going to talk about in these two games. They're pretty similar players, I think. I mean, what they do high school wise, they are both outstanding running backs, 2,000-yard rushers. They both play safety and really work well with their defense. There's other playmakers that they have to work with on both sides of the ball, but those are the guys. Running backs, safety, a little bit on the slightly smaller side. Around 6 foot, 190, 200 pounds. But for high school football, these guys do a lot of the same things.
yes, sir. I agree. They're both special guys on special teams.
That's right. And of course, Lieber is putting up humongous stats. So let's talk about these two teams, Steve, and their games, both on Saturday night, both in Northern California. Northwood, Laguna Hills, both 14-1 school record victories for both teams. So we'll start in Division 3A, and that's Laguna Hills. So they're going to be playing Saturday night at San Jose City College, taking on Bellarmine, the Bells of San Jose, private school. I believe it's Catholic school in San Jose, long-standing, traditional Northern California powerhouse type school. Not necessarily for football, but at least in recent history. But you got to look at the Bells here because they're out of this same league that produced Sarah of San Mateo that's playing St. John Bosco. They're from the same league. They tied for fifth in the West Catholic League. They're 8-6, and the Cal Preps projection has it 31-21 in favor of Bellarmine, who's got a couple good guys on defense, a good linebacker, Brandon Broch, and
Yeah.
good defensive lineman, Javion. So it looks like they have two quarterbacks, including one that has run the ball. So looks like another very tough game, just like we saw, instead of Laguna Hills in the regionals. What's your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, boy, this Bellarmine Prep has some dudes. They also got pardon me, a defensive back, Billy Ladd, who's got like 5 or 6 INTs and one return for touchdown. The lineman that you mentioned, Javon Reels, has 10 sacks. So they got to find out where that guy is. And they run some option stuff that's going to keep Laguna Hills moving around on defense, keep them guessing. So we'll have to see how that works out for them. But but they don't. Do they have a Troy Lieber? A guy who can get out, get around the corner, and get out in the secondary, and you ain't going to catch him. So I think Laguna Hill's chance to win this game are pretty darn good. And that coaching staff. You talk about big game coaches over there with Coach John Lester is a wonderful story. Overcoming his medical obstacles, and Steve Bresnahan's over there, and Bruce Ingles. Those guys got CF championship rings. Kirk Brown's been around a long time. Man, there's some good dudes on that staff. So they're going to be prepped and ready to go.
Yeah. And Coach Wittenberg is another assistant I talked to before the game. When I covered Laguna Hills, I got to see the Hawks in the CIF finals in Division 7. And yeah, Troy Lieber is something else. The way he runs the ball, he was mostly injured last year kind of got shut down. And that's why I think Laguna Hills was really under the radar. But they got a lot of seniors on this team. They got a good defensive end. I like Travis Randolph. Yeah. And they have some aggressive playing linebackers, and they get to the quarterback. And Caden Austin's a pretty capable quarterback. Stands in the pocket, left-hander, got a couple slick receivers. So I think Laguna Hills can win it. They've like they've said, they have a feel of team of destiny. This is where they wanted to be. But this is going to be a tough one because Bellarmine has played a lot of tough competition out of that West Catholic League. They lost to Sarah of San Mateo 28-7, and that's a team that's undefeated and playing St. John Bosco in the Open Division state championship game on Saturday night at Saddleback College. So that's really great competition for Bellarmine. So going to be really tough, but we'll see if the Hawks can come back with it. So speaking of road trips to Northern California, so is Northwood taking on Escalon. That's a little bit east. That's quite a decent amount east of the San Francisco Bay Area, kind of as you're moving toward that general Stockton area. Escalon is 12-3. They're the third place team from the Trans Valley League. They've won 9 straight, and they lost in their SoCal Bowl last season. So they've been playing deep into the postseason for the last 2 years. Interesting thing about Escalon too, they have 2 of their 3 losses, Steve, are by 1 point. They've also won a game by 1 point. So they played some really tough games. And then, not surprisingly, what does Cal Preps project in this game? Escalon 31-27. Escalon's got some other players we might talk about here in a moment, but what's your first read of this game? And this is Division 4 AA.
Yeah, 4 AA. You mentioned the words team of destiny, and man, is that Northwood or not? That's Northwood. They got beat last year in the regional round. They want a little more glory. They got it by getting the win last week and then getting to this game. And we talk a lot about Adam Harper and that quarterback Miata is kind of pretty good.
Yes,
I saw them last year, and this year he's very much improved. He can sling it a little bit. Don't sleep on that Eugene Miata guy. Throwing the ball around. He's pretty good. But, I know you know a lot about Escalon since you're but they got a running back, Riker Peters, who's pretty good. Yeah. He's got averaging 130-something yards a game. He's also second in the team in tackles, too, as a linebacker. And they also got a back, too, named Logan Anderson, who's a pretty good guy on the returns, on the punt and the kick returns. Logan Anderson, you got to watch out for that guy, too. They don't throw it much, only 132 yards a game, but Northwood's sort of the same thing. I think we're looking at both these games going to be run-first games. Interior line play is going to make it happen. And Northwood's linemen, when I saw them a couple of weeks ago, goodness, that's a good unit over there.
Yeah, I was real impressed with Northwood. I am impressed with the quarterback Eugene because I like the way he can run the ball. He's a good runner and picks his spots well. There was a couple times, and I actually wanted to see it a little bit more. There's a couple times where Northwood, they went empty. They move, they go 4 or 5 wide receivers, maybe move Harper around and go in those passing formations. And they're very capable in that. And they had a long touchdown called back by a holding penalty, but they have some potential. And I think it's a little bit of a balance, especially in the second half. Guys like Adam Harper, Troy Lieber, they can take over those games in the second half. shorten that clock real in a hurry. They can run out the clock, but you got to keep these guys fresh, and you can't put it all on their shoulders, especially maybe early in the game. But I like that Northwood did go empty, and I wouldn't mind them doing it again, because this time of year, some of these defenses are pretty hard to run on. They're pretty locked in on assignment football.
That's a great point.
But yeah, this Escalon team looks tough. They're going to be playing at home. I think it's tough to win a state title, at the school of the host school if you're on the visiting side. So this is going to be a tough one. Northwood only won. They won on the road last week, just like Laguna Hills. So I think Northwood can pull this off. What do you think?
Yeah, I think both of these Pacific Coast League teams are going to win. I really do. Northwood, you put up obstacles and things, like, man, this could be too hard. This could be too difficult. Oh, really? You really think so? That's Northwood's attitude. You really think this is too hard for us? Yeah, go ahead, keep saying that. I think they like that. They're kind of crazy. I like that.
Yeah. So, Steve, so to wrap up our show here, and we thank everyone for following the Gridiron Show all season. It's been a pleasure to talk some football with you guys, and thanks for coming along the journey with Steve and I. We like doing this. A couple categories we want to hit as we close out 2022 here on the Gridiron Show. So we want to talk a little bit about our maybe our favorite game of the year to cover. And it makes me wonder, hey, Steve, you remember who won between Northwood and Laguna Hills? Maybe that was the game of the year in Orange County.
Northwood won that game, but now we look at it. Yeah, wish I was there.
I know.
And I wish I was at Laguna Beach, Granada Hills last week. 56-55. Laguna Beach lost to. I might have said Laguna Hills. Laguna Beach lost to Granada Hills in their regional game. 56-55, as our partner Mike Hetley said on Twitter. This game is bananas. So I would have liked to have been at that one.
Yeah,
the game that I saw a couple of good games. I saw a lot of good games. Goodness, they're all good games. But one that I remember really well is Orange Lutheran. Orange Lutheran beating Santa Margaret 28-26.
Yeah.
And I got some notes on this game here because it seems like it was so long ago. Jaira Moe of Orange Lutheran blocked 2 PATs and recovered a fumble. Orange Lutheran wins by 2 points, and that guy blocked 2 PATs, 28-26 over Santa Margarita for Orange Lutheran in the Trinity League game. I think it was a league opener for both. Wow.
That was a big one. I covered some great games too this year. I like both Edison Orange Lutheran games I covered. The non-league game won by Edison with a great fourth quarter, and then the league game, the playoff game in the first round of the playoffs, it went right down to the wire, and Orange Lutheran ended up rallying and blocking that, stopping the 2-point conversion by Edison. Those guys have a great rivalry. I enjoyed both those games. Los Al 69, Santa Margarita 49. I saw that game on a Thursday night at Veterans Stadium. That was a really good one as well. I know I'm giving more than one, right? And then Mission Viejo beating Centennial in the playoffs on the road, and seeing Mikey Matthews, Caden Samanza realize a lot of their potential. That was a huge one, I thought, for Mission Viejo. So those are a couple of ones that jump out to me. How about surprising team, Fryer?
Surprising teams. Jay Serra did better than I thought they were going to do. They did pretty well, getting to the playoffs, winning a playoff game, beating Margarita in the playoffs. Pretty good stuff. Jay Serra, a team that came up pretty good. Canyon, I knew they're going to be able to throw the ball, but they threw the ball and won a lot of games. Christian Lunsberg was fun to watch play with the receivers, Fox Haugen and company over there. And the two teams that are playing in state.
There we go.
State finals, Laguna Hills and Northwood. Like I said, if you and I, back when we were in shorts covering games in the heat of August, if I would have told you, hey, those two teams, those are state championship bowl game teams. Now, Fryer, you've been at it too long. Time to stop.
Yeah,
but here they are. So those are 4 teams that I thought, my goodness, surprisingly really good teams.
Yeah, all good, very good teams, and I agree with those are great picks, Mr. Fryer. You know where I'm going, of course. So the number one team for me, most surprising Orange County, it was Bolsa Grande.
Yes.
Snapped the longest playoff drought in Orange County football history.
Love it.
And I think it was they made the playoffs for the first time in about 34, 35 years. And
Yeah.
it was, and I told a lot of people where I was at when I started covering Bolsa during the year, later in the year. I covered their league game where they tried to clinch it and they lost to Loera in week 10, and then they won the coin flip to get in the playoffs, and then they won their first playoff game since I believe it was, oh man, it's something ridiculous in the late 80s or something like that.
Probably Greg
Um,
Shadid was the coach back then. That goes back some.
yeah. So, but for me, it was, as long, and I've been at the Register for, like you, for a long time, covered high school sports, like 30 years. And Bolsa has been, you know, maybe the weakest team in the county for most of that time. They had many winless seasons, or one-win seasons, and I had never even covered a Bolsa Grande football game and I got to cover two games this year, talk to these kids, see the job that Coach Acosta did there,
Yeah.
and turning that program around, and some of the fun players they had. So that was, for me, was the biggest one. So,
Love
hey, and
it.
then to wrap up, um, 2022 Fryer, what's
Yeah.
your reaction, overall about the Trinity League coaching situations with three openings right now in the Powerhouse League?
Man, Scott McKnight did a really good job at J. Sarah, but there were some differences on how to do things. Same thing with Troy Thomas over at Servite, little difference on how to do things. Rollinson is retired, and whatever his reasons are, hopefully we'll find out someday. One thing I know about Rollinson is that he's always going to do what's best for the school, and I think the underlying thing of this is that's what Bruce Rollinson did, was what was best for the school. They're gonna great openings. Does people want them? Do people want to like go up against Bosco Mater Dei and take that J. Sarah job, or Servite's up against it, somewhat in that league? How you gotta rebuild again. How many years of a project is that in those places? You want to, the alums at some of these schools can be a little bit rough. They want to win now, because that guy in the cubicle next to me over there, or that guy that I go fishing with or something like that, he went to school X. They're always beating us. I'm sick of it. I want to brag. So there's all those things going on. Those are three tough jobs. I think Mater Dei may hire in house, perhaps. Maybe they've already got their guy selected. Jay Sarah, maybe a guy from out of the area that's kind of a name guy, is going to make a splash. Servite, maybe the same thing. Somebody from out of the area is going to make a splash. Or maybe it's some young head coach at one of the public schools, or an older coach at one of the public schools who, hey, I've always wanted the challenge of coaching and playing against the best. Here's a chance for me to test myself and see what I can do against that level of competition. I'll take that. But I think that's what that landscape looks like. What do you think?
Yeah, the one that surprised me the most was the Coach McKnight at J. Sarah, because I really thought they got the most of their talent at J. Sarah. They were not gifted offensively, but they found a sophomore running back in George Perez. They played great defense and special teams, and they, like you said, they were one of your surprise teams. I thought he did the best job with his talent in the Trinity League, and he's got a great good staff. And I thought they kind of found something. That's one surprised me, because Rollinson, he's been going year to year, essentially, in my opinion. We've always been asking him the last several years, and we know about the controversy in the program. And Coach Thomas, there was, and there has been a new regime there, new administration turnover there, and he is on his second stint. It is so that's one you can kind of see something happen like that before, though their 1-9 season, which was the worst record in Servite's history. It was after a heavy graduation of a senior class of the ages, and they lost some key transfers. I don't know how much better with the schedule they had. I don't know how much better Servite was going to do than one win or maybe two win. So maybe could they beat Rancho Cucamonga? I don't know. They took a trip down to San Diego and played well after their bye week. They almost rallied to win that game, but it was a comeback game, right? So, but I just hope I think one important thing is, you mentioned the boosters, but I think every administrations and schools need to, look at these decisions carefully and think about the message they're sending to their young men and their student athletes about the turnovers. Because I do wonder if all this turnover suddenly, the Jay Sarah, for example, that's a sudden one for me, somewhat subtle of sudden at Servite. What kind of message does this put on the players, the student athletes, where they see these changes? The schools are operating in a way that puts a lot of emphasis seemingly on the wins and losses. And we're talking about, Mater Dei is going to be, if they keep their returning players, they're the number one team in the country next year. Don't judge your season if you're Servite or Jay Sarah based on how you do against Mater Dei. And if Bosco gets a lot of new players and reloads, and they're the reigning national champions, don't freak out if you don't do too well on them. And give your teams some time. Jay Sarah had some time from 1 year to another with Coach McKnight. They were very young in his year one, showed what they could do better. Coach Thomas, you give him a few years, I think he'll show you some impressive things. It took him a few years. It even took Negro time at Bosco to get that going. He still took about 4 or 5 years. And hey, don't forget that there was there a decade when Mater Dei struggled, and there was people calling for Rawlinson's departure, and it took them a while. They've been on a run, but people forget that they've been on a run the last 10 years, but they were struggling when Mission Viejo ruled the county, and Mater Dei couldn't beat Mission Viejo. These things do cycle, and you got to have some patience, is what I think. A little bit more patience.
Yeah, I think you're right. I agree with all of that.
So that's my rant right there.
That's a good rant.
So we'll see where it goes. You never know. It seems like we could get off the Zoom call, Fryer, and there could be more news out of the Trinity League. You just never know.
Yeah, is my phone buzzing yet? Who knows?
So
we got calls to make, Dan. You and I got calls to make.
That's right. So we'll see.
We'll find out. We'll have it. We'll have the news for you, everybody.
Stay tuned to OC Varsity. But for this week, it's Northwood and Laguna Hills week in the state finals. Let's see how it goes. And again, thanks for joining us here on the Gridiron Show. And we are planning to be back for some basketball talk in January. So looking forward to some boys and girls basketball talk once we get through the holidays.
All right, Dan, good working with you again, pal.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And enjoy the holidays. And thanks for following us here.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy New Year, etc.